remarkable story of JOHN Arden begins on the 6th of November 1893, when in the town of Oosterhout, a baby boy was born to Martinus and Lucia Arden. This young boy was named Jan. Throughout his childhood, young Jan had a fascination with all animals. His early school years were spent at the St. Paulus Abbey in Oosterhout, and it was here that he met Father Paulus, a teacher at the school, and someone who had a great interest in racing pigeons. Jan became passionate about these wonderful creatures, volunteering to look after Father Paulus's birds, always learning and wanting to know everything he could. This started a burning desire that possibly made JOHN Arden the greatest long-distance racer ever in Holland, and the strain of birds that bears his name legendary around the world. It was clear that the desire was there, but now Jan needed a loft of his own. His parents were not pigeon fanciers and they didn't have much spare money available. Seeing how serious their son was, they agreed to a small loft at home. It wasn't the grandest, but to young Jan it was a palace, and he was king.
He now had a loft of his own to go with his desire. The only thing missing was the pigeons. At this point it is important to tell the story of how Jan obtained his first birds. As we said before, Jan was educated at the St. Paulus Abbey in Oosterhout. One of his teachers was Father Paulus, who had a unique method to incentivize children's learning. He rewarded them with cards, a green card for every time they worked hard, and a red card which was obtained by trading in 6 green cards. Now Jan was by all accounts a good student and quickly was earning green and red cards. The objective for the children was to get 6 red cards. For these, Father Paulus traded a book for the child to read on their own. JOHN Arden had other goals on his mind. For the required 6 red cards, it was not a book that he desired, but some racing pigeons of his own, and so an agreement was made. JOHN Arden obtained his very first racing pigeons by hard work at school. When Jan was 18, he joined the Snelvliegers Pigeon Club in Oosterhout. It was here that he replaced his original birds obtained from Father Paulus with proper racing pigeons. Like all stories of success, it also involves a bit of good fortune. Around this time, Jan met Gerard Oemans in Breda. Gerard was one of 6 brothers, Jan, Harry Antoon, Koos and Jeff being the others. They were slightly ahead of Jan in developing their family of birds, a family that would make the Oeman brothers the champions of long and extreme long-distance racing in the Netherlands before World War II.
Mr. Oemans Sr. took a particular liking to Jan and treated him like a 7th son, teaching him all the tricks of pigeon racing, all the while Jan was learning and embracing all that he was told and saw. Oemans' birds made their way from Breda to Oosterhout. In quick time, because of the quality of birds and his own hard work and drive, JOHN Arden became unbeatable in his club over the short and middle long-distance races. In the bigger organizations he also started to achieve great success, even beating the Oemans brothers with their own birds. In the spring of 1924, JOHN Arden moved to the Grintweg. The sport of racing pigeons was no longer of great importance because his 4th child would soon be born. The youngest son of JOHN Arden, his parents named Anton Arden. Like his father, Anton was also very interested in racing pigeons, and when Anton was 18, they became a combination father and son. Now JOHN Arden was back racing seriously, with the help of his own son in whom he could see a lot of his young self. The emphasis moved from short and middle long-distance racing that he had been famous for in Oosterhout. Their emphasis now switched to extreme long-distance races, as Anton was very interested in this discipline. Anton was very friendly with Willy van Kampenhout, who had birds that were famous from the extreme long-distance race points. It was after conversations with Willy that Anton became passionate about competing in the international races from San Sebastian. However, he did have to persuade his father that this was the racing they should become involved in. In the end, JOHN Arden agreed with his son, and therefore JOHN Arden became also an extreme long-distance racer. JOHN Arden did stipulate one thing: if they were going to compete they needed good long-distance birds. Birds that they currently didn't have in their own lofts. And so began the search for the origin birds of the JOHN Arden extreme distance birds.
JOHN Arden knew that an uncle of his was a very well-known extreme long-distance flyer. His name was Henri Rage, from Den Haag. He was champion of the Den Grootstage Bond. The top stock bird in the Rage Loft at that time was Auden Vassart. It was a beautiful red pigeon that Henri had acquired from the auction of well-known racers Pauwels from south of Ghent. The origins of this bird was from Belgian champion Vassart of Fleurus, a well-known racer of the Karl Wedge strain of birds. Henri crossed his Aud Vassart with a couple of hens from Dr. Bricot. At that time no better birds up to 500 kilometers could be found anywhere. From Jan Schouten, the champion from Rotterdam and specialist on the extreme long-distance flights, Henri got his best racing pigeons for the extreme long-distance flights. He bought from Schouten the Limoges Duif, an older sister of the famous Blas Duif, one of the best racing pigeons before World War II. When he was 9 years old, he won with Schouten the 14th National St. Vincent and the 18th National Dax. Schouten was a rich man, buying the best of the best from Jules Recard, who raced for a very long time under the name Ostro. In 1934, JOHN Arden got 4 pigeons from his uncle. With these 4 pigeons there was a 6-year-old light checkered cock. He wasn't big and he had a very small physique. JOHN Arden would later import one more of that kind to his racing pigeon loft. This cock became one of the best breeders of the father and son Arden. They called him the Radoffer. Also his nestmate, the Oud Riaduavan, came to Steenbergen. She also became a good breeder of many top pigeons for father and son Arden.
The pigeons of Roquette had impressed the Grandmaster Arden so much that he went 1 year later to Borgerhout. Jules Roquette bought some racing pigeons at the beginning of the century from the Grandmaster Edouard de Herd, from Kontich. From 2 direct de Herd pigeons Jules bred his famous Mushka, a fantastic racing hen and an even better breeder. She became the mother of the Oudlicht. He was paired to a hen of Emile van der Voort, who had almost nothing else other than Roquette or Ostro pigeons. From this couple Jules Roquette bred his stock bird, the Godelicht. This cock, again not big at all, was a truly all-round flyer and won first prizes from short distance until extreme long distance. Sons of this stock bird, the Godelicht, became stock birds at that time with several well-known racing pigeon fanciers in the Netherlands and Belgium. In Belgium with Vincent Marion, Merksem van der Espt, Oostende, and in the Netherlands with Han Wassen, Rotterdam, Henry Ray, Den Haag, Fernand Schull, Roosendaal, and last but not least JOHN Arden, Steenbergen. The Godelicht from Jules Roquette was paired to several hens. With the Donkier Kluitmans, he paired the stock birds of Van Ray and van der Espt. With her daughter, Bloor Kluitmans, he paired the stock bird of Fernand Schull, Roosendaal. The racing pigeons of Kluitmans were from origin of Isidore Clays, also a racing pigeon fancier from Antwerp. The best youngsters came when the Godelicht was paired with the Gode Bloor from his townmate Floor Lennertz. This Gode Bloor hen was unbeatable on the short distance and became a stock bird of Roquette.
From this couple, JOHN Arden bought a magnificent cock, the Blas Ostro. This cock seemed to have tremendous breeding capacities. He became a top stock bird with JOHN Arden. JOHN also bought from Jules Recard a light checkered hen Belsk. The Belsk hen was bred out of the Leon, a red cock from Leon van der Sandy when bred together with Ostro hen. The father of the Leon was the Goede Licht and the mother of the Leon was bred closely to the Goede Blau from Floor Lennertz. The mother of Belsk was the Blauw Klutmans. A sister of Belsk, the Gode Duivinnik, was bought later on by de Schiemecker brothers. Gode Duivinnik became one of their top stock birds. After World War II, JOHN Arden received on loan via Wagemaker a cock from the de Schiemecker brothers which was bred closely to the Gode Duivinnik. JOHN Arden also bought an older heavily inbred hen. She was called Duvelge. She flew with Ostro as a young bird in the strong Antwerp Union organization, winning 30 early prizes. Recard bred her from one of his best breeding hens, the Fee, a red hen from townmate Theo van Hove. The Fee was a product of partnership breeding and came out of the Goliath from Ostro, a son of the base pair Goede Licht with the Goede Blau, and a daughter from the Oud Licht, the stock bird of the Recard loft since 1919. The father of the Duvelge was the Goede Licht himself.
Before World War II, Jules Roquette had a very strong extreme long-distance race strain and he was in favor of inbreeding. He was a normal man, a man who never searched for publicity. By his fine art of breeding, he was able to build a strain of birds at the Eid Coevenstraat in Borgerhout, from where many famous racing pigeon fanciers have taken the fruits. His name wasn't that famous in the years 1920 to 1930, but his pigeons could compete with the best of Belgium. JOHN Arden had noticed this. The third visit of Arden wasn't so far out of his neighborhood. A trip with the family was linked to a visit of the specialist on the extreme long-distance races in Zeeland, Leo de Kock from Hulst. JOHN Arden had noticed there a beautiful 2-year-old dark checkered hen. This hen was to become one of the stock birds from the father-son combination Arden. She was named the Vetkont. The Vetkont hen was from the origin Staaf du Sarduin and Marquiny from Sars out of Gent. Father and son Arden bought that same year a hen from the Belgian extreme long-distance racer Bremdox. The duo Arden wasn't successful with this new blood of Bremdox. Also, the blood of Tinus for me wasn't a success. Not everything that the Arden family tried worked, but they persevered and built the strain we recognize today. The base of the breeding loft of JOHN Arden was made at the end of the 1930s by the blood of Ostro, the blood of Henry Ray, the superbreeding hen of de Kock, the Kampdorfer from Willem van Kampenhout, and in 1938 there was also the 2 pigeons of Hermansen from Anthony Wagemaker and Tyest stock. JOHN Arden formed with this mixture a very hard flying loft. His breeding capacities were based on his natural talent, his large experience and his grand know-how of the genealogy. He was in favor of inbreeding. His 2 basic couples had some same blood strains.
First, JOHN Arden coupled Blas Ostro with the Oud Reduoven. This combination was a great success. The most famous son of this couple was the Fietsvlieger. He won from Nguyen, 7 minutes in front of the rest of the convoy. After World War II, the Fietsvlieger came back to the loft Arden and bred some magnificent birds. His nestmate Dick Blah was a very good racing pigeon and was superior in the breeding loft. A year later he bred the Sko1 Blah out of this couple. This racing pigeons always won first prizes on the club Olympiads. The Dick Blah died in World War II, but the 3 Musketeers became very important to the rest of the Arden story after World War II. The 3 Musketeers, out of Blas Ostro and Oud Reduoven. 1 Dick Blah NL36 to 37251. 2 Fietsvlieger NL36 to 37252. 3 Sko1 Blah NL37 to 2128. The second base pair was composed of the Radoffer and the Belsk from Ostro. The 46 was the best son out of this couple. In the young bird competition in Steenbergen, he won the young bird competition with the 1st, 9th, 14th and 45th prize. A full sister of the 46 was the Orleansk. The Orleansk won top prize positions from Orleans for 3 consecutive years. The Fietsvlieger was paired to the Vetkont of de Kock. With this pairing, the 3rd base pair was formed, and they also bred some very good racing pigeons. The most famous hen out of this couple was Die Verkeer Duoven, one of the best racing pigeons ever from the Arden loft. The Dick Blah was paired by Arden to Duvelch from Ostro. The 4th base breeding pair was formed. Out of this 4th pair was born Muik.
The breeding concept of JOHN Arden was very clear. The baseline of his colony was formed on the sons, daughters, grandsons and granddaughters of the Godelicht from Jules Roquette. In the years 1938 and 1939 nobody could fly to compete with the breeding products of Arden. In 1939 JOHN Arden was already racing his pigeons on the widowhood method. All still was not perfect though in the mind of JOHN Arden, and when he and Anton had a visit from Willem van Kampenhout, they discussed that they still believed that Bordeaux was too far for their birds. Kampenhout was extremely impressed with the quality of the Arden birds and suggested they give St. Vincent a go. JOHN and Anton basketed just 4 birds for St. Vincent. They were Verkeerd Duoven, Skone Blore, Dikke Blore and Muik. The birds were liberated on the Saturday. On Tuesday, the race would close. Race conditions were poor with heavy rain along the race route and hopes were not as high as they normally would have been. At 3:00 in the afternoon the winner of First National Netherlands was known. JOHN Arden's first pigeons was his second nominated, Verkeerd Duoven. She came around 6:00 in the evening. winning 59th National Netherlands. JOHN Arden was now convinced about the quality of his racing pigeons because the verkeerd duwen, despite the constant rain for the entire flight, wasn't tired and showed no signs of stress at all. The Dikke Blauw won the 95th National Prize. Unfortunately, the Arden family made a basic mistake. They thought that the race was closed on Monday as usual for the traditional Friday liberation. Skone Blauw and Muik arrived before the official close time and would have still won good national prizes. From doubt over the ability of their birds, they had just clocked 4 out of 4 and all would have been in the national prizes. The rest is now history and the story of one of the greatest long-distance family of racing pigeons that the world has ever seen.
Like all the great strain builders, JOHN Arden over the years successfully blended together several breeds of pigeon, including the Delbars, to create his own strain, and from the 1930s onwards the legacy began. In later years, both JOHN Arden and others, including Van Achtmel, Van der Wegen, and Van Giel, to name but a few, who had obtained his birds, dominated from races such as Dax, St. Vincent and Barcelona. This put the small Dutch village of Steenbergen firmly on the map as the heart of distance racing. Fanciers from all over the world came to obtain birds of the JOHN Arden origin, resulting in the success of many of the modern-day long-distance fanciers. The major influence, however, in the development of the Arden strain and the consequent dynasty was Zilvervosj. This light check hen with a reflection of silver in her wings was a wonderful breeder as well as a racer. Her bloodlines are there in the families of the great Arden fanciers like Muller, Van Achtmel, Van den Berg, Van der Wegen, Van den Einden, and the Kuipers, as well as being the grandmother of Conipius's second national Barcelona. In fact, her contribution to the development of the marathon pigeon in Europe is immense. Zilvervosj is a daughter of Slaper, H46 to 270518, which was of Schutteren bloodlines. Other research confirmed that another Schoutern pigeon was the other parent. This fabulous hen, when mated with Zesentactig, H47433486, also known as 86, bred late Meesters, H495255758, a pearl of a pigeon. The famous 131 was a great-granddaughter of late Meesters, the latter appearing in the pedigrees of many of the best modern representatives of the strain. The late partnership of Ijerkamp Muller confirms that Zilvervosj was the foundation bird of their family. The sire of Van Wanrooy's the Spin is a grandson, and the dam is a granddaughter of Zilvervosj. And of course the Spin was the foundation bird in the families of Kuiper's brothers and Peter van den Einden. Arden's famous 37 was a grandson of the hen. In turn, 37 was the grandfather of Giel van Achtmel's 500 as well as the grandfather of Jan de Weert's 131. Surely two of the best of the Arden dynasty.
Zilvervos was the granddaughter of the Oud Wit Pen, a famous breeder of Toon Stoffelen and Bontje Arden. Dam of Lichtenberg's 10 was a granddaughter of Zilvervos. Bear in mind also that the Bontje Arden was the mother of Janus van der Wegen's Oud Doffertje. The list appears to be endless regarding the breeding influence of Zilvervos, but, as stated, she was also a very good racer. Some of her triumphs included the following: 3rd National Dax, 1949, 2nd National Dax, 1950, 55th National St. Vincent, 1950, 7th National Dax, 1951, 47th National St. Vincent, 1951. Although a reserved person, Arden made some friendships which added to the building of his strain. One of those friendships was Piet de Weerd, the world-famous pigeonologist, whose knowledge and advice Jan pondered. Another fruit of their friendship was the so-called Piet de Weerd pigeon, perhaps Arden's main breeding hen of Delbar and Diegaffroy origin. In fact, the Delbars played a prominent part in the Arden's origins, for some of the early breeders carried the blood of this strain. The success of the developing Arden strain caught the attention of Jont's fellow fanciers in Steenbergen, and many were purchased, resulting in the area becoming the hotbed of long-distance racing in Holland. This also contributed to the evolution of the strain. A few of the latter around the period after the Second World War until 1960 included Toon and Piet Lichtenberg, whose famous hen Oud Wit Pen, when coupled with another Arden, were the parents of two of the most famous representatives of the strain, the famous number 10 of Lichtenberg and the fabulous Udoffiger of van der Weggen, the latter being the foundation of the van der Weggen strain, while number 10 became the father of the famous doll of Marijan van Giel, the origin of the Van Giels.
The late Marin van Giel from Nieuw-Wassemeer in Holland succeeded in breeding a family of birds with exceptional perseverance and exceptional character, whose base stock birds were obtained from Giel van Agtmel, the best friend of JOHN Arden in the mid-1950s. Two of the best long-distance racers and breeders ever flown in Holland were the Lang, entered 18 times for national races above 625 miles, winning 17 prizes, and the Dal 67 ended his distinguished career in 1975, 8 years old, with a third national St. Vincent and 4 weeks later third national Dax. The original Van Giels have been the building blocks for many long-distance lofts around the world. Champions such as Vlech, Zoan Dal 800, Dr. Dal 290, Favorite, Dal Keef, as WEL, as many others, are household names now, and fanciers such as the Kuiper brothers, Wim van Leeuwen, Jomp Clean, etc. owe their success in part to the late great Marin van Giel and the JOHN Arden-based birds. As the strain developed, it dominated the races from Dax, St. Vincent, Bergerac and Barcelona, among others, taking Europe by storm and extending beyond to become a truly worldwide family. Piet de Weerd helped in this context by buying good representatives of the strain and selling them to others. Another important contributor to the success of the Arden dynasty was Piet Lazarums from Zeg. This Arden specialist bought out top lofts of Ardens, and through this he owned the best of the strain. In turn, Lazarums was used as the main source of the Ardens by the best fanciers in Europe and elsewhere. For example, Van Pepperstraten and De Hade. The latter built his loft on his famous clapper, which he had got from Lazarums. There's also the exploits of Van Zelderen, who won 5 nationals with Ardens. Recent examples are Theo Ernest, whose Barcelona successes are based upon the Ardens, and also the Brugman brothers, whose famous loft is founded upon another Arden source, Hein and Hub Oostenrijk. Nor should the exploits of Jack Steketee of Brunis be overlooked, for he formed one of the top Arden studs of the 1990s. His Golden Breeder 788 is considered one of the best of the Arden dynasty, as is the highly thought of 60 of another Arden ace, Cees de Jong. Then there are the world-known breeders and racers of Jan Polder and Piet de Vogel of today.
Such is the influence that JOHN Arden has had upon the sport of pigeon racing, that his name is used widely and, or, associated with Dutch long-distance racing pigeons. For many, he was the creator of the Dutch long-distance racing pigeon. In his early days in the sport, JOHN Arden could not have imagined what his love of racing pigeons would lead to. For arising from the strain which he produced, there now exists a dynasty, the Arden dynasty of long-distance and marathon thoroughbred racing pigeons. Therefore, what better memorial to JOHN Arden but to ensure that the strain which he molded and which became a dynasty will continue to overcome distances, mountains, seas, and other obstacles on the way to nest or perch. Thus, all today's Ardenists will continue the work of the master from Steenbergen.